I'm going to go ahead with the meeting beginning ritual now. 起立，面向佛堂，参加先鞠躬，一鞠躬，再鞠躬，三鞠躬，参加各位的传习鞠躬，开班一鞠躬，请坐下。
First, I wanted to take everyone through a recap of what we talked about previously in chapter 10. And then I want to transition into that and demonstrate the linkage between 10 and 11. So chapter 10 is about power, but not power in the sense of, Man of Steel, The Dark Knight Rises, etc. Not that kind of power, but power in terms of the power of spirituality, the power of virtue. It's the kind of power that's very specific to sages, and we talked about how sages are able to manifest this power by effortlessly attracting people to him, arriving at the right answer, provide advice to people that bring them a measure of peace, and also, always seem composed in the midst of chaos, and so on. These are the great powers that sages possess. It is what we all wish we had. So it is mystical in nature. It seems mysterious because people can't figure out how is it that some people seem to have this wisdom and other people don't. And how do you arrive at this kind of wisdom? How do you attain this kind of power? So before heading into that, I know that some people who are listening in, but perhaps haven't heard me talk about this before, will say, it all makes perfect sense because, after all, the Tao Te Ching is literally the book of the way and its power. So there you go. It's all about power. And that's when I will say, no, that's actually a very bad translation of the title. Yes, it's commonly accepted. Yes, it appears in Wikipedia. It's still a really bad translation. So Tao Te Ching, the original title, it's just the classic of the Tao and virtue. One of the possible meanings of virtue is power, as in by virtue of something. You enable something else. That's the power there. So the Tao Te Ching, the middle character, cannot be translated as power. One of the contexts of that character is power. So that's where that is. Because of that, it's a very bad translation that's floating around. Okay, so how do we gain this power? Whatever the translation issues may be, how do we gain this power? And we talked about how chapter 10 speaks of a meditative state. So it's important to note that meditation, what we commonly know as transcendental meditation, those are practices that come into this country from India. So from China, you have a variety of different meditative states that you can follow. Some passive, like sitting meditation. You can either be sitting on the floor. There's even sitting meditation where you literally sit and you let the mind go quiet. But there's also active forms of meditation, which may include Tai Chi. Tai Chi in Chinese is Tai Chi Quan. So the real pronunciation in Chinese, the second character is a J sound, Tai Chi Quan. It doesn't really matter to the sages which one you pick. It does matter to the sages that you pick one. It doesn't have to be Qigong, it doesn't have to be Tai Chi, it doesn't have to be transcendental meditation, sitting meditation, also known as Zazen. Zazen in Chinese is called 坐禅. It doesn't have to be any of those. The important thing is to have some sort of practice. It can be something that does not resemble meditation from the perspective of the conventional viewpoint. For instance, you can set aside time every day for silent contemplation, self-reflection. That's a meditative state. You're going to want to practice getting into that state by breathing and relaxing, which are talked about, referred to in chapter 10. But that's a meditative state there. I myself, when I walk, when I take a hike, I like to do that in a meditative state. It's very enjoyable. I also enjoy doing writing in a meditative state. Sometimes I write with a specific purpose in mind. I'll write about a particular topic. Other times I write whatever comes to mind. So I hope everyone sees the difference between the two. Writing to express something or writing to receive something, writing to channel something. When you do the channeling, when you allow yourself to be a conduit to whatever is coming through you, that can be a very powerful and transforming experience. And you don't necessarily need to subscribe to the supernatural. So it isn't necessarily a deity or Satan, as the case may be, that is speaking through you. It could be your subconscious or your higher self. Whatever works for you. So there are specific elements. I mentioned breathing. I mentioned concentrating, focusing on something, or focusing on the void. And I mentioned also relaxing like an infant, to be soft like an infant. Some of that we will do next time in the guided visualization on emptiness. So another way that we talked about from previously was to interact with the world like a sage. This is where I would challenge everyone to not accept anything blindly, especially dogma, especially inflexible dogma. So be sure to get into the habit of asking, why does it really make sense? And who made up that rule? If a rule has been created, it's most likely created by a human being. And if some human being created that rule, you as another human being, you have just as much power to examine that rule and maybe overturn that rule for yourself. So not all the rules in the world come from divine sources. I would say all of them come from human sources. So always question rules, always question authority. And lastly, think like a sage. This is where we talk about empathy and harmony. So the sages have the ability to understand what it looks like from different perspectives other than your own. So these are actually related to what we're going to talk about today. So one of the stories that's connected to the teaching today is all about the ability or the discipline to cultivate yourself, to practice cultivation, to build on yourself, to create a spiritual foundation, and then a spiritual first floor, and then a spiritual second floor, so that you are ready to build the third floor. And the third floor, metaphorically, that's the one with the commanding view of the surroundings, which represents, in sort of a storybook metaphorical format, it represents the view of the enlightened, the clarity of the enlightened. If you have practiced some of these things, and you haven't before, you've tried to examine everything around you with your critical faculties, your reasoning abilities. If you have tried to look at things from different perspectives, to try to put yourself in someone else's shoes, if you have picked a meditative practice, whereas you didn't have one before, I would be very interested to hear about what differences it has made in your life. If you haven't done that, it's not too late. In the week following today, I would invite you to consider putting some of this into action. So,
let's go ahead and do the meeting ending ritual, everybody. 起立，面向佛堂，持架三鞠躬，一鞠躬，再鞠躬，三鞠躬，持架规则是一鞠躬，接班一鞠躬。Okay, everybody, we are done.
Participate in the Tao meeting by joining us online. For information, go to taoism.net/Tao